All right, guys. So we've discussed recently, there's been a number of people who have already flipped on Donald Trump and are chirping in the various cases against him. One of them, and this is a crucial one, is somebody who handled the security footage at Mar-a-Lago when Trump was obstructing justice, not turning over the top secret and classified documents. Homie was instructed, hey, take this stuff and get rid of the video because it's evidence against us. And so now that dude flipped. So in the classified documents case, he's in a world of trouble. And then others have flipped on him as well. We've reported that on this channel. Well, now we're beginning to see some signs that Mark Meadows, his chief of staff at the time, may have flipped on him. So this is something here. This is something. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows rolled the dice on Monday with his opening move in the sprawling Fulton County election subversion trial. He took the stand himself. So this is in the Georgia case in particular that he was talking. For roughly 3.5 hours Monday, Meadows testified about his job at the White House and the chaotic post-2020 election period when then President Trump and current Meadows co-defendant sought to overturn the election result to stay in power. Meadows sought to convince a judge that, as Trump's right-hand man at the White House, his various attempts to block his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden were part of his official government duties. Who, me? I was just following orders. We've heard that many times, and it's not a very compelling defense. If the judge agrees, the trial could end up moving from state court to federal court, a more advantageous legal spot for Meadows. That would dramatically upend the case brought by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis just 2 weeks after the grand jury indicted Trump. Meadows and 17 others on racketeering charges related to efforts to subvert the 2020 election results. So, what we already know so far, he talked to them for a very extended period of time, and he's trying to do it to protect his own ass cheeks. That's the gist of it. Okay, well, if you're going to do that, one of the things you can definitely do to protect yourself is turn on the big guy. Say, hey, I'll give you whatever you need on him if you go light on me, or if you let me get away. What unfolded in Atlanta on Monday was shocking by legal standards. Criminal defendants often take advantage of their constitutional right and decline to testify as part of their legal proceedings. And even smarter defendants decline to speak publicly about their case while it's still ongoing. Any good attorney will tell you, don't take the stand, because they're going to poke holes in your argument, you're going to contradict yourself, and also just don't talk about this at all in any forum. Just shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Mark Meadows is doing the exact opposite. Why? Why is he doing the exact opposite? Why is he intent on talking as much as possible? Well, maybe we'll find out here. Quote, it's a calculated risk to put a defendant on the stand at any time, certainly during pretrial motions, and usually the calculation goes against the defendant. J. Tom Morgan, a former district attorney in DeKalb County, Georgia, said on CNN's Inside Politics Monday, I'm absolutely amazed that he is taking the stand. Well, I'm not that amazed if there's one condition he's trying to meet, which is, yeah, I'll point the finger at Trump. He did it all. I didn't do anything. He did it. And you're going to get hints of that throughout this article. Putting Meadows on the stand gave prosecutors the chance to question him about the events after the 2020 election in a setting where his words can be used both against him and the other defendants in the Fulton County case, not to mention in special counsel Jack Smith's federal indictment of Trump for election subversion. Meadows is keen on moving the case out of state court because he's arguing that he falls under a federal immunity claim extended in certain contexts to individuals who are prosecuted or sued for alleged conduct that was done on behalf of the U.S. government or is tied to their federal position. I think that's a difficult argument to make because he wasn't really doing this on behalf of the U.S. government. He was doing this on behalf of Donald Trump. Now, yes, Donald Trump was the president at the time, but when the president is ordering things that are pretty clearly illegal, then you have a duty to the Constitution over the president. This is effectively the same argument that Mike Pence makes, and Pence makes it in the context of, hey, I didn't try to coup Biden. I didn't try to overturn the results of the election because I don't have that authority. So Meadows at the time was doing a lot of things to help overthrow the election, but now he's saying, bro, I was just acting on behalf of the government and stuff. It was my official duties. I don't think this argument's going to land. The upcoming decision by U.S. District Judge Steve Jones matters to all of the 19 co-defendants, including the former president, whose lawyers are expected to file a similar motion as Meadows. One of Trump's lawyers was spotted in the courthouse Monday. 4 additional defendants have already made a motion to move their cases to federal court, too. Jones, an appointee of former President Barack Obama, did not rule from the bench at the conclusion of Monday's day-long hearing, but he noted the significance of the issue. When Meadows' attorney said at the conclusion of the hearing that his client was entitled to a prompt determination, Jones responded he was likely going to take his time because he thinks his ruling will set a precedent for other cases. Quote, "If I don't rule by September 6th, then you should show up for the arraignment," Jones said of Meadows. They're trying to move it to federal court because they probably feel like they'll get a more sympathetic judge or jury in federal court. And also, it would delay it further. And of course, they're trying to delay it as much as possible. Trump in particular is trying to delay it as much as possible. He wants it delayed until after even the general election because he hopefully wants to be president again. So these are all tactics that they're trying to do to give themselves a better chance. And, that almost goes without saying. It's obvious. Jones on Tuesday asked prosecutors and Meadows to file additional legal arguments about Georgia's anti-racketeering law known as RICO, giving them a 5 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday deadline, indicating that he won't rule on the matter before Friday at the earliest. Meadows' testimony wasn't advertised beforehand. Meadows' attorney did not telegraph they planned to call their client to testify ahead of Monday's hearing, while Willis had subpoenaed Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who was on the January 2021 call when Trump told him, "You find me 11,000 votes. Find me 11." That's the guy who he said that to. Time and again, to bolster his case, Meadows connected his actions with his official position. He tried to personally observe the signature matching operation in Cobb County, Georgia, so that he would be prepared when the president asked him about it, Meadows testified. He said some of his contacts with state officials were partially about COVID relief funds, in addition to the Trump-fueled discussions about overturning the results. Meadows claims some of his election-related activities were done so he could effectively advise Trump about future legislation about election security. A puzzling argument, considering that Trump's presidency was drawing to a close, and he has never been known to care much for the nitty-gritty of lawmaking. The former chief of staff also grew somewhat exasperated as the prosecutor questioned why his role would include setting up a call to settle private litigation. At several points, he said he did not recall about the outreach he had conducted to set up the Raffensperger call. They're saying to him, look, you orchestrated the call where Trump was begging, find me 11,000 votes. And so if you were directly involved in that, then you were effectively part of the crimes. You knew that what was going on was wrong. You knew that what was going on was illegal, and you were facilitating it anyway. So this I'm just following orders thing doesn't really pan out. Quote, "I dealt with the president's personal position on a number of things. It's still a part of my job to make sure the president is safe and secure and able to perform his job," Meadows said. "Serving the president of the United States is what I do, to be clear. Politics is never far from the White House," he said. "There is a role for the chief of staff to make sure those campaign goals and objectives are implemented at the federal level." Meadows' lawyer George Terwillinger said the job responsibilities are broad because the role of chief of staff is closely intertwined with the operations of the federal government. But if he shot a demonstrator in Lafayette Park, that would obviously be outside the scope of his duties, Terwillinger said. The theme that they kept coming back to was Mark Meadows going, wasn't me, it was Trump. Wasn't me, it was Trump. Wasn't me, it was Trump. I was just doing what he wanted me to do. My job, chief of staff. I got to serve the guy. So look, did I do anything illegal? I don't think so. I don't know. But if I did, you can't really blame me because I'm just following orders. The real person you got to point the finger at is that guy. And this falls in line with a trend that we've seen recently. All these people, as soon as they get under a little bit of scrutiny, all of a sudden it's, hey, to protect my ass? Yeah, I'll tell you what you want to hear. And the reality is, who was the head of the snake? Who was in charge? It's exactly who you think it is. It was Donald Trump the entire time. I don't know what the case is with Meadows in particular, but I know that Trump has cut off a lot of the people who he was paying their legal defense. He's cut them off. Well, you idiot. I understand it costs a lot of money and all that, but you absolute moron, that makes it way more likely they're going to flip on you. It makes it way more likely they're going to flip. So the fact that Meadows decided to talk instead of not talk, the fact that it all apparently was orchestrated privately and nobody knew about it until the moment, and the fact that the main argument he keeps making is, well, me, it was him. Well, me, it was him. This doesn't bode well for the big guy, man. This is yet another person who's like, what do you need me to say? How do I protect myself here? So, now, look, in the other instance, I think it's more of a slam dunk case, to be clear. I think the classified document stuff is just black and white, and anybody else would, it's like guaranteed guilty verdict with Trump. You never know, but it's as open and shut as you're ever going to get with him. This one's a little bit harder to prove, but with all the people involved and all the people who are undoubtedly trying to protect their own asses, yet again, I'll say it, doesn't look good for the big guy. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.